Have you ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio, we'll examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Welcome. Hello. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the inaugural show of Share International Radio, where we present thought-provoking views behind the news with a perspective that will take us from the implausible to the undeniable to a great possibility. And that is a great possibility for all of humanity and something that we are all a part of. So I'm really pleased to be on this inaugural show. My name is Cielito Pascual. I'm podcasting from Seattle, Washington. I co-host this program with Diana Gold-Holland. She's based in Vancouver, BC. We're on every Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and you'll get to hear Diana hosting on upcoming programs. So visit our website at shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org, and you'll find out about upcoming shows featuring some really, really interesting guests. And I would like to introduce the guest on our inaugural show. He's an amazing man and a dear friend of mine. I'd like to introduce Dick Larson. He is a counselor with a background in education, business, and communication. And Mr. Larson has reached, I would imagine, into at least 1 million people with all the work that he's done as a public speaker, in lectures, giving radio interviews, having his own radio show, and producing programming for public access television across the nation. And he is sharing a message that reflects his strong convictions that we are now in a very special time of world change, one that offers tremendous opportunities for personal growth and new hope for the future. And my friend Dick's familiarity with the spiritual side of life comes from his Christian background, and he's also a very committed student to the Ageless Wisdom teachings. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And also a student of the world's major religions. Welcome, Dick Larson, to our inaugural show.
Thank you, Cielito. It's great to be here.
I'm so thrilled that you, as a busy person that you are, you're taking time with us, and your knowledge is very in-depth. You're a great person to listen to and to open the door for so many people to a very compelling body of information. Now, before we go there, I just want to acknowledge what's come before us, because we want to always do that. Share International Radio didn't just come out of nowhere. The team that created this podcast, we are all very inspired by a publication called Share International Magazine. This is a publication that's been around for over 30 years. It's translated into 7 languages. It's distributed worldwide, and it's been in continuous publication merely on volunteer effort. And essentially, the basis and context of Share International Magazine's message is about the very powerful principle of sharing, the spiritual principle of sharing. And the chief editor is the author and futurist Benjamin Creme, C-R-E-M-E. And he has been lecturing for 40 years, traveling around the world, presenting a very compelling message, not just about the principle of sharing, but presenting 3 very riveting ideas. One, that we are never alone. Humanity is never alone. And two, we have help of an extraordinary kind. And three, that the solutions to the world's most intractable challenges are within our grasp. And those sound like three very simple ideas, but the information behind them is pretty complex. So I've invited you, Dick, to help me out here with the heavy lifting. And you're incredibly knowledgeable. To understand this body of information, we have to step through the door of knowing about the ageless wisdom teachings. Can you start us off? What is the ageless wisdom? What is this body of teachings, and where do they come from?
Sure. The ageless wisdom is an ancient philosophy. It's important that your listeners know that it's not a religion. We're not talking about a religion here. It's a philosophy. It's as old as humanity. Over the eons, over the ages, humanity has been given releases of information as humanity is ready to understand it. And so, when the student is ready, the teacher will come, that kind of thing. So this information has been released to humanity over the eons, and there's that old saying, more shall be revealed. Well, it's true. More is constantly revealed to humanity. Typically, its major information is released about every 2,000 years. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but 2,000 years is a cycle that our planet and our solar system is in for a very specific reason that has to do with astrology, not astronomy, astrology. But every 2,000 years, we're given a great teacher. And that teacher brings the next information. Well, the two most recent publishers of the ageless wisdom information, the first one is Alice A. Bailey, in case your listeners want to get something by Alice Bailey to read. She wrote in the 1930s and 40s, she wrote about 20 books about the ageless wisdom information. The most recent person you've already mentioned is Benjamin Creme, spelled C-R-E-M-E. He lives in London, England, and he has written about 14 books. They're all available on Amazon.com. I'm not here to sell books. They're priced at cost, basically, anyway, so most people are able to afford them. They're not expensive books at all. So if your listeners are interested, they might want to check out some of Benjamin Creme's books, but they are the latest revelation of the ageless wisdom teachings.
So, Dick, you mentioned with every cycle of 2,000 years, we see a great teacher releasing information. Who are some of the previous teachers we've seen presenting information to humanity?
Sure. Well, the most recent, 2,000 years ago, was Jesus, and right before him, the Buddha. The Buddha taught the wisdom of God. Jesus taught the love of God. And my information is that the next teacher, who is due any time now, is going to release the teachings of God's will and the purpose behind that will. So it's wisdom, love, and will are the latest revelations that humanity has received or are about to receive. And then before the Buddha, there are great teachers like Krishna, Confucius, Zoroaster, Muhammad. All of these great beings that have released information over the eons have gone through humanity, the human evolution, ahead of us. And so they have become perfected men and women. And as perfected men and women, thank goodness they hung around planet Earth to help those of us who are still here. And so these perfected men and women have become called lots of different names, wonderful names. The spiritual hierarchy, the kingdom of souls, the lords of compassion, the custodians of the ageless wisdom. These are all perfected men and women who've gone ahead of us, like those that I mentioned. It includes Joan of Arc. It includes Mary, the mother of Jesus, and so on.
And before we go, I'd love to talk more and understand what you mean by perfected. Before we go further, I just want to again reiterate what you said at the opening, that our information is not purely about religion. This is not a religious perspective, although we are bringing in the great traditions of spiritual insight. And the purpose of Share International Radio is to look at what is happening in the world and understand the underlying currents of energy that are prompting what we're seeing unfolding. A lot of what we're seeing is, frankly, very disturbing. When we open up the newspapers, look at the headline news, it's very troubling. And there are also trends that are incredibly heartening, very positive, and there is an energetic reason behind that as well. And I know you can dig deep and share some very interesting information around that, Dick.
Yeah, Cielito, one of the reasons that the religions come up is because the ageless wisdom is so old and so truthful that its basic truths are said to underlie all of the world's major religions.
Yes. Oh, it is. I always picture the ageless wisdom teachings as a great oak tree, and the world's religions are the tremendous branches branching out. Not just the world religions, but indigenous traditions come out of this great oak tree of the ageless wisdom teachings. And it's a perfect picture. I always look to nature for metaphors of how to understand this kind of information. For some of our listeners, they may hear elements that they're very familiar with. For some of our listeners, it may be completely new. And really what our job is to connect the dots between what's happening in the outer world and with what we understand happening in the inner world. And the picture that comes forward is what we share and present for our listeners for their consideration only. I know you, Dick, personally, you're not a proselytizer, and you're certainly not hammering a hammer when you're talking about this. This is for suggestion and investigation only. So next segment, we're going to go into a break, and we will come back and speak more about these perfected teachers stepping forward into the world today. Stay tuned.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive, dedicated community.
Welcome to The Gathering Around My Kitchen Table on Equilarium FM, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join my guests as we integrate spirituality into everyday reality with vibrant conversations, inspired interviews, and my latest channeled guidance to inspire and brighten your day. I'm Claire Johnson, and together we'll be raising vibrations across the nations.
Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, seat-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back to Share International Radio, thought-provoking views behind the news, and we are speaking with Dick Larson. Dick Larson, you were just giving us an introduction to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, and we want to explore more what you were talking about regarding these perfected teachers. But before we go there, I just want to kind of bookmark for our audience, not that it's necessary, because we all know what's happening in the world, but I just want to acknowledge that there are a lot of things that are puzzling, disturbing, inspiring. Let's see, we'll start with what's disturbing, all the conflicts that are happening in the world, a lot of violence between groups, a lot of just the deprivation and poverty that exists in the world, the tremendous gap between the wealthy and the rest of the world, and the amount of wealth that a minority of people on this planet control. And then there are the positive things. Every few days, I am looking online and I am seeing pictures of hundreds of thousands of people turning out to protest issues that are affecting the planet and affecting life on this planet. We've seen this in recent years, an increase of people standing up and gathering en masse over issues that can be as seemingly minor as an increase in cost of public transportation, all the way to the issue of austerity, all the way to the global movements to consolidate power and affecting the way humans are interacting economically in the world. So there's a lot happening. And so what you're proposing, Dick, is that if we understand the Ageless Wisdom teachings, there's some that we can make sense of what's happening in the world. So yes. Let's start there.
Like you said, the Ageless Wisdom is for people that have a religion and are happy with it, and it's people who are part of no religion at all. It's for everybody. And it's very important that your listeners know that I'm not trying to cram any information down their throat. We're just presenting this information. It's what I do. I go different radio stations around the world and present this information, like you said, for the listener to consider. And if 10 or 20% of it makes sense to them, great. I'm happy with that. But I'm not trying to get people to think like I think or force anything down anybody's throat. Today, there is a tremendous crisis going on, just like you said, Cielito, and there are a couple reasons for that. Number one, we have a huge spiritual crisis going on our planet right now, primarily because we have forgotten who we are. We are not humans having spiritual experiences. We're spirits having a human experience. And we have forgotten that. We've forgotten that every aspect of our lives is spiritual. You know, one of the sad things that's happened is that religion has cornered the market on spirituality, and in fact, every aspect of life is spiritual. Our work is spiritual. Our play is spiritual. Money can be a wonderful spiritual tool. Money isn't evil in itself, and so on. Health, education, all of that, those areas of life are spiritual, and we have forgotten that. And so we've stopped evolving. And what we need to do is continue to remember who we are, and I'm sure your listeners know who they are, or they wouldn't be listening, and continue to evolve. One of the major causes of this tremendous tension that's in the world right now is the fact that we're moving into a new time. We're moving into a new time, and scientists have a name for this. They call it the precession of the equinox. Our planet and our solar system move through the heavens over time. We don't sit still. And we're surrounded by 12 huge constellations, which are full of energy, and we call them we
move through the constellations. You're talking
right.
From Aquarius into... forget the Piscean age into...
Perfect. Now you got it. Exactly. For the last 2,000 years, we've been in alignment with Pisces. And the great teacher Jesus came 2,000 years ago to inaugurate the age of Pisces. And so all these constellations, by the way, are called the zodiac. I had a mental block on that, sorry. And so 2,000 years ago, we moved into Pisces. Well, the two primary energies of Pisces are individuality and dedication to an ideal. And it has worked. It has helped us evolve. Man has come out of the herd. We're dedicated to the ideal of freedom. That's what saved the world in World War II. But now we're moving out of Pisces. In 1625, we started moving out of the influence of Pisces. And in 1675, the scientists and astronomers will tell you that we've started moving into the influence of the next constellation, which is Aquarius. And so now we're moving into the energies of Aquarius, and they're completely different. That's a group energy. The two primary energies of Aquarius are synthesis and cooperation. So now what's happening is we are being bombarded by the Piscean influence and the Aquarian influence, and whenever that happens, when we're right between the two, there's chaos. And that's exactly what we have on the planet right now. The Piscean individuals are, look out, get my own, survival of the fittest. I need to get my own, that kind of thinking. And then the Aquarian thinking, the new thought that's being impressed upon our planet by the constellation and by the masters, is the idea of cooperating with each other, working together. That if I'm going to succeed on this planet, it isn't about me getting my own. It's about me making sure you get yours. That's the difference. We're going from competition to cooperation. And that transition can be very uncomfortable. You have war. We have starvation on this planet still. We can't seem to end that. We can't seem to stop killing the planet. And so on. So we can't end wars. So all this stuff is going on, and we're not making a lot of progress, it looks like. But what this show is about, if I understand your show right, Cielito, is what's going on behind the scenes that the news can't report because they don't understand it. What's going on behind the scenes is tremendous change. There are people, Cielito, as you know, behind the scenes right now with a system that will work to feed everybody on the planet. But people aren't ready to hear it yet. They're not ready to work hard to implement it yet. So we need to go through some suffering. It's called the
Wait.
I'm sorry, I got another mental block. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But
we
have to go through some tough times in order to move us to take action.
It's like the crud is coming to the surface. We are seeing the worst of ourselves coming to. We have to recognize the worst of ourselves first before we realize our divinity.
Yeah, this isn't working. What else can we try?
And I want to go back to what you said. We have forgotten who we are.
Yes.
And this period of time, I personally, I feel incredibly blessed to be alive. I think it's an extraordinary time to be alive. I know many people who say the same thing. And if you're listening, in the upcoming shows, we are going to share more and more information so that our listeners can look for the signs of why we are undergoing a real transformation, and each and every person listening can be a part of that transformation in very simple ways. I just wanted to identify, you were talking about the Piscean energies and individuality. If I may personify that for people's understanding, we're seeing extremist groups.
Yes.
Whether it's extremist religious groups, we have extremist scientists. We're seeing extremes of positions, polarized positions, people on either end, clinging to a way of looking at the world, which is fading from view. It is becoming out of date. And we have young people coming into this world. They're here now, and I hear them, and they're speaking loud, and I am amazed by their creativity and their insight. The way in which young people are recognizing that we cannot rely on a single figure to make changes in the world, that it is indeed an effort of bringing people together.
They think inclusively, yes.
Inclusively, absolutely. And yes, we're seeing even economic extremism is what I would call the 1% and 99%.
Absolutely.
And we're going to see that I think it's at its most extreme now. And people are, when people are acting and moving and making noise in the streets, people are demanding that human dignity be acknowledged. And to take that a step further, human divinity be acknowledged. And it's really a moving. We're being prompted by energies when we.
Yes, we are.
Do you want to speak a little bit more on that in the 2 minutes we have before, and our 1 minute before our break? Talk a little bit more about those.
The negative has to rise to the surface in order that it can be recognized and cleaned out. I'll give you another example, Cielito, and that's the Catholic Church. All these problems with the priests and the people in the Catholic Church that were abusing children. When these problems become out into the open, it looks horrible. What are we going to do? But that's exactly what has to happen for us to recognize it and fix it and address it. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of the harmfulness on the planet coming to the surface now. We're recognizing it. It's starting to stick out like a sore thumb. The 1% versus 99%. I mean, you can't ignore that. There is no middle class anymore. You can't ignore that. It's too big of a problem to ignore anymore. And you're going to see that we're going to be addressing this. There are people who have solutions behind the scenes. Once humanity is ready to act on it, those solutions will come forward. And the best news is, Cielito, we have help. There's help here. It isn't on the way. It's here. And we can talk more about that after the break.
Wonderful. I'm on pins and needles. I'm on the edge of my seat. Let's talk about the help that we are getting, the extraordinary help that humanity has to correct these grave, grave challenges we're facing. We will be back after the break.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Share International Radio. My name is Cielito Pascual. I'm with our guest, Dick Larson. Just want to thank OMTimes for this wonderful platform that we get to share our information on. and thank our Share International Radio team for bringing this together. If you have questions, we have a Facebook page. We are live right now. If you have questions, go to our Facebook page at Share International Radio, and we'll do our best to answer the questions. If we can't get them today, we'll get to them at our next show. We're doing a part 2 with Dick Larson next Sunday, again, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. And we will be talking more on these topics. Just to whet your appetite, we will be talking about UFOs and their spiritual mission. UFOs and their spiritual mission, as well as the laws of life, the law of karma, the law of equilibrium, the law of rebirth, and how understanding the laws of life can help us individually and help us globally to solve the problems that we're seeing in the world. Hi, Dick. Welcome back.
Thank you, Cielito.
Yes, I'm having so much fun and feeling really energized by this conversation. I love how you bring the information together so clearly. Let's talk about the Masters of Wisdom, also known as the Lords of Compassion. This is a group of people that have always been with humanity since the beginning of our evolution. Let's talk more about them.
Yes, they hang around in the Himalaya mountains, the different mountains and deserts of the world, where there's clean air and not a lot of noise. You know, they don't now. They're in bodies, but their bodies are temporary. They don't need a body to be around. They're permanent consciousness now, permanent spirits, members of the kingdom of heaven, whatever you want to call them. And they are behind the scenes. They don't come out openly very often at all. They work behind the scenes by inspiring humanity, by inspiring us. The great scientists of the world, the great musicians of the world, the great artists of the world have all been inspired by the masters. Now, they add their own talent to it, of course. The masters just inspire them to use their creativity along certain lines to help the rest of us. They create music for the rest of us. They create art for the rest of us. So what they're doing, they're serving humanity. These people that are inspired, that kind of lead the way for humanity and have done so for eons, are part of the work of the Masters of Wisdom.
May I give an example of a modern-day interaction between a Master of Wisdom and a great leader? That would be Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr.
Right.
And to understand the energy that comes from a master through, we use the term disciple, someone who's disciplined to the work of service. Listen to Reverend King's speech, I Have a Dream.
Right.
You are receiving energies that are being transmitted from one of the Masters of Wisdom through Martin Luther King out to the audience. And you can experience those. You know, obviously, we hear them in recordings, and we experience those energies. That's one example.
You know, Cielito, if you ever have a chance to see that speech again, I think it's on YouTube. If you ever have a chance to see that, and your listeners have a chance to see that, watch Martin Luther King. He refers to his notes for about the first 3 minutes, and after that, he's just taken over, and he never looks at his notes again. He just gives this glorious, uplifting speech. The reason that speech is so famous and has lasted so long is because it's got the Master's energy behind it. He was divinely inspired to give that speech. It's a marvelous thing to watch him leave his notes behind and go into this speech. Oh, man, you're right. It gives me goosebumps.
And in turn, he inspired thousands of people in their own communities and really changed the course of the evolution of this country, of the United States.
Absolutely. So these masters, I'm sorry.
Oh, continue. Please.
So these masters are working all the time. They don't rest. They don't sleep. They don't eat. None of that stuff. You know, they're just working all the time. They're sending energies to us and to the planet all the time. Could be heat, all kinds of different energies. It could be the energies of healing, the energies of cooperation, the energies of synthesis. Could be the energies. Sometimes they withdraw energy to create peace, like in the Middle East. A lot of times the masters will withdraw energy from the Middle East to calm it down. So they know how to work with the energies of our planet and of our solar system. They know this high science, which we don't know yet. It's all science.
Let me ask you, Dick.
Yeah.
How'd they get to be masters?
How did they get to be masters?
Yeah.
They evolved ahead of us using couple of the laws that you mentioned earlier, the law of rebirth, where our soul is eternal, but it keeps taking new human bodies in the womb, and it always remembers where it left off in the last lifetime, and it picks up right where it left off, and eventually we have learned all the lessons that the school of planet Earth has to teach us. And once we've learned all those lessons, we don't need to come back in a body anymore. So we become a permanent spirit, a permanent consciousness, as demonstrated by Jesus through his death and his resurrection. He showed where we're all going to go. We're all going to learn all the lessons of the planet, and we're going to rise and not need a body anymore. And that's where the masters come from. Once you become a master, then there are paths you can take. You don't have to stay with planet Earth. You can go and help other people in other places. All of cosmos is life. Well, we're so grateful there are 63 of these great masters that have hung around planet Earth. And the leader of this group is a master he wants to just be called the teacher, but he's also called the world teacher. His personal name is Maitreya, Maitreya. Maitreya means the happy one, the one who brings joy. He's the head of the masters, and he helps them coordinate their efforts. Each master is responsible for a certain aspect of life. One is responsible for the arts. One is responsible for science. One is responsible for healthcare. That's the way the masters work. They split up the work. That's why it's called a hierarchy, because they're all at different levels and they all have a different part of God's plan that they're responsible for. Well, the good news is it's been 2,000 years since a master walked among us. It's time for another one. And the head of all the masters, Maitreya, the world teacher, is coming himself. And he is here now in a physical body that he made, that's indestructible. He doesn't need to eat or sleep. He can't be killed. And he is here waiting for the right time to come forward, because if his timing isn't really good, he won't have the attention of most people. So he needs to time it when he'll have the attention of most of the people on the planet. Now, that's a lot of people, 6.5 billion people. So he's waiting for the right time to come forward on television and radio, hooked up by satellite. That's what the satellites are there for. They're there for this great event, not for World Cup soccer. And then he will come forward on what he calls his day of declaration. Now, I'm told his day of declaration is like no more than 2 years away. So we're not talking a million years from now, and we're certainly not talking about the end of the world. The end of the world is millions of years off. This is a whole different event. This is a teacher coming forward to walk among us. And Cielito, as you know, he doesn't come alone. There are 13 masters on the planet right now, 14 including him, on the planet right now. And before the age of Aquarius is over, the 2,000 years, there will be over 40 masters walking among us, helping us in each aspect of life, helping us get back on track. We have lost our way. We've fallen off the path. And he comes to point that out to us and to make some suggestions. They will not tell us what to do. They know that free will is sacred. They will not ever tell us what to do. They'll make suggestions. Then we can choose. We can either follow those suggestions or not.
And that's an important point to make, that this is about our choice as humanity, what direction we want to go in. And
right.
There's two directions. We can continue with the modes of living that we are living under now, under the prevailing economic system that we are living under now. We can continue that and eventually destroy any possibility of life on this planet.
Right.
Or we can choose another way. And that way is the way of sharing the resources, of recognizing the divinity and the dignity of every human being, and creating our economic systems and our political systems, our educational systems, to recognize the dignity of every human being. And
that's what. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's what's happening now with Pisces and Aquarius. All the Piscean energy is being withdrawn. Well, that's what we built the healthcare system with. That's what we built the politics system with. That's what we built the financial system with, the educational. It's all collapsing. No matter what we do, we can't fix it. What's collapsing because the energy that built it is being withdrawn. It can't do anything but collapse. So now we need to rebuild those with the help and the guidance of the masters, rebuild all those institutions with the energies of cooperation and working together. And when we do that, they will serve humanity beautifully for at least the next 2,000 years. And that's why we're on the planet now. If you're listening and you're wondering why you're here, this is it. I'm not kidding. You're here to help rebuild the planet and to rebuild humanity. It is no small task, but it's exciting.
Yes, no one is too old or too young, too big or too small to participate in the transformation of the planet. It will take all of us. But right before our break, we're going to have a break really soon. I just want to share how I personify Maitreya. You know, you gave us a lot of information there. I like to call him the eldest brother of humanity because literally, according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, he is indeed our eldest brother. He was the first of human evolution to master life on this planet in the way you described, to have experienced every experience possible in order to master the life experience. And Maitreya has returned to be of service. He's been with us. He's never left. He's resided in the Himalayas, inspiring and guiding humanity. From that moment, he became master. And so we are very fortunate to have the presence of these wise guides. And they are guides. And there's every reason to look forward to the future. And the very near future. So the near future after the break, we will talk more, and we'll talk more about practical things that people can do to apply in their lives. Join us after the break.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millises, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we are back. Share International Radio, thought-provoking views behind the news. My name is Cielito Pascual, and I just want to let you know that our website is shareontheairradio.org. If you would like to submit a question, you can go to our Facebook page, Share International Radio. If you're bashful and you don't do Facebook, you can email us at info@shareontheairradio.org. And I'm just thinking of who I want to acknowledge. Just want to thank our producers, Francis Oman, David Minot, and my co-host, Diana Goldholland. She's coming up in a couple of shows. Check our calendar at our website. And for today and on show 2, part 2 of our introductory programming, we are here with Dick Larson, who is a speaker and lecturer, sharing a very, very moving, inspiring message of hope for the future. So, Dick, we are in our last 10 minutes of this program, and listening to those promos for the other wonderful shows on OMTimes Radio. I think about how much we, as humans, we hear information and we think, what does this mean for me? How can I use this? We're very practically oriented. We want to know what can we do? That's always the question. And there's so much that we can do, so much ways that we can implement, even just the amount that we've learned in this brief amount of time into our day-to-day lives to have some insight and to just move through the world with a little more ease. What are some things that we can suggest, some kind of understandings that we can share for our listeners?
Sure. The Ageless Wisdom, just to start with something real basic, the Ageless Wisdom says that when we come into incarnation, when we are born here on planet Earth, we're born with certain purposes in our life. And it says that pretty much everybody has a few purposes, and then as individuals we have other purposes that relate to other people on the planet. But in a general sense, it says that one of our purposes is always to serve others, to get into some kind of service. Maybe it's making a donation to feeding children or whatever. I don't know. What you need to do is find something that you like, and then there's a world of need out there. Just find something you like and then go help them out in whatever way you can. But we're here to serve. Picking up a piece of paper on the street, that's service because you're helping keep the planet clean. Another thing the Ageless Wisdom says is that we are here to establish right relationships with people. Relationships that are not harmful. Relationships that are harmless. Forget about love. Just think if nobody on the planet harmed anybody else. Woo, it'd be a different world, wouldn't it?
That would be
that's harmlessness.
We could transform the world tomorrow.
Absolutely. And that's without love. That's just harmlessness. So one of the things we can do is try to harm people less, become more and more harmless, and establish that right relationship with people. Very, very important. By the way, that's the next step forward for humanity, according to the Ageless Wisdom and the Masters. The next step forward for humanity is to get into right relationships with each other as part of groups. A third thing that people can always do is learn and grow. You are here to learn and grow. We learn and then we forget what we learned. We don't act on it. Learn and grow. Yes, Cielito.
Well, I wanted to give a teaser for our next show. Along the lines of right relationship and harmlessness. I'm going to throw out a big idea right now. And it's the idea that as humanity, it is an imperative that we end all war. And on our next show, we're going to talk about UFOs and their spiritual mission. We're going to talk about why that is necessary. Because beyond ending all war on this planet, we will be provided an extraordinary gift. So that's my teaser for our next show. Next Sunday, that would be the 18th.
I can't wait to talk about it. I know. To go on, though, with some other things, what can we do? Well, one of the things you can do, if you've heard this show and you think there might be a possibility that a teacher is on his way to come help us dig our way out of this mess that we've created, because we have to do the work. They're not going to wave a magic wand and make everything okay, because it's our mess. Karmically, the old law of cause and effect, we have to clean it up because it's ours to clean up. So One of the things you can do is you can create the expectancy for him to come. You can get other people to wonder if maybe there's a teacher that's going to come by telling this to other people. See, I heard this guy on the radio. I'm not sure about this, but he says we're getting help, that some guy's going to come and talk to the whole world at once and make suggestions on how we can fix this planet. Wouldn't that be great? I don't know. Tell it at that level.
They can
but
share
tell
the
people
link
story.
to the show.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the more people expect him to come, the sooner he can come. That's the way God's laws work.
Yes, there's a generative energy in expectation. And also, I wanted to add, as far as things that we can do, this is my personal opinion, is that we don't have a lot of time and there's a lot of work to be done.
Right.
And wherever we are, we can step up our level of service. I'm sure everyone listening, because they're conscious, because they're curious, because they're looking for more information, does some sort of powerful service in their community. Think about, how can I take that to the next level? One of the powerful things to learn is about self-governance, meaning how do I work with my neighbors? How do I work in my community to bring about conditions that will bring positive change? And once that's kind of an advanced suggestion, but I know there are people listening who've got that on their mind and are maybe a little timid, so let's give them permission. Let's give ourselves permission to be out there in the world. That's where we can practice harmlessness. That's where we can practice sharing. That's where we can practice listening to others' ideas and implementing and creating a world that dignifies all life, not just human life, but all life on this planet. So I want to put a plug in for community service and even community leadership.
Absolutely. And march in the streets. Do things with other people. Bombard whoever you want to with emails. March in the streets. Protest. Do it on Twitter. Do it on Facebook. And get the word out that we want change. That we want change. It's time for the people to run the world, not the leaders.
Absolutely.
Aquarian energy does not support individual leaders. It supports the people, us. It's our turn. And it's going to have an effect. Look at these people over in Egypt. They marched in the streets and threw out the government just by marching in the streets for a few days. Mm-hmm. That's the power, the group power of Aquarius. It's real. One of the things I'd like to do, Cielito, is tell people 3 ways they can recognize the world teacher.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Please do.
There are 3 ways you'll know whether we're talking through our head or whether this is the truth.
Yes.
And that is when the world teacher comes forward. If you hear about a big worldwide press conference, my suggestion is tune in. No matter what time of day it is. Here are 3 ways that you'll know if it's the world teacher talking. Excuse me. The first way you'll know is that you'll see his face on TV, but his lips won't move. You'll hear his words in your head in whatever your native language is. Everybody in the world will. You'll be looking at your friend going, this is strange. He's not talking, but I'm hearing him. Are you? It'll be one of those kind of strange experiences. You will hear his words telepathically in your head. That's the first way you'll know it's him. The second way you'll know it's him is that while he's speaking for 35, 45, 55 minutes, nobody knows how long, you will feel the love of God in your heart like you have never felt it before. He said it will be so powerful, it will be as if I physically embrace you. He can give us the love of God. Trust that. If you're afraid of the Antichrist can't do that. So the second way you'll know it's him is you'll feel the love of God in your heart like you've never felt it before. The third way you'll know it's him is that when he's done speaking, there will be press reports from all around the world that while the world teacher was talking, addressing humanity, hundreds of thousands of people were miraculously healed during that time he was speaking. And in those 3 ways, you'll know that this is the world teacher, and we can either follow his suggestions or not. Everybody has to make up their own mind about him. Absolutely. Nobody can be forced anything. That's one of the things I love about the Masters. They don't force us to do anything. And something else about the Masters. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that the Masters, many of us may have already met Maitreya or one of the Masters.
Right.
They often appear as ordinary people. Oftentimes they appear as a homeless person, a homeless man or a homeless woman. Sometimes they appear as a student. They share a message that is personally meant for the listener. And oftentimes they vanish. It seemingly vanish in the next moment. And we have heard story upon story upon story of people who knew about the Masters, people who don't know about the Masters, having very deep, very profound experiences with a friendly, warm stranger lasting all of 30 seconds or a minute. So,
and they don't even have to speak to you. Just look in your history. There's 3 ways that people commonly know they've had an experience with a master. 1, there's something in the eyes that's really, really special, that really touches you deeply. 2, they feel this love. They feel so happy and so joyful, and there's no reason why they should be that happy, but they're just really, really happy. They feel like their feet aren't touching the ground as they walk along. That kind of feeling. And the 3rd way that you know that it's a master is it's an ordinary experience. You look at some homeless guy sitting on a park bench, and you walk on, and you can't get this guy out of your mind. 3 months later, he's still popping into your mind. That was a master. That was a master. Yes,
if you think you've had an experience like that, you're welcome to share that. You can email it to us at info@shareontheairradio.org. We would love to hear your stories. We'll be sharing them in the upcoming shows. And with that, Dick Larson, thank you so much. We're just getting started here. There is so much more to cover. We have so much to talk about regarding the UFOs and our space brothers who are doing a remarkable job of service for our environment here on our sacred planet Earth. So please do tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We so appreciate you joining us. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook at Share International Radio.
Thank you, Cielito.
Thank you, Dick. Thought-provoking views behind the news. We'll have more with Dick Larson next week. Thank you so much.